Okay, so our used vehicle reviews. Now we've had a lot of offers for trucks, and Joel jumped in there really quick to offer his 2020 Sierra, but I think it's just so he can get his name out there for some free advertising, which, hey, why not? Joel, does work. We are gonna go check out this 2020, almost 3-year-old review on this truck, and it'll be really interesting because we did a brand new 2020, and it wasn't fantastic, so we'll see what this one does. Here we go. I am really, really surprised. Okay, so with the 5.3 in this thing, we're getting 13.7 is what the dash said, empty on average, and that dropped to 15.4 once we were pulling that tiny little trailer. So if you are, I know Joel does use this for work and pulls a decent covered trailer, really definitely figure out your fuel mileage and how much that's going to cost you. Of course, the prices are all over the place right now. As it sits right now, if it was about $1.50 a liter, he'd be spending about $20,000 every 100,000 kilometers that he drove. We'll put the conversion down below as I'm talking, but I would almost opt for the 3-liter diesel if I was pulling, and then leaving it empty. The 5.3 would do a really, really good job, or like the occasional boat to the cottage or whatever. But yeah, really mileage hasn't improved that much over the last decade, where it's like, oh wow, we were able to do something magnificently incredible and go twice as far on the same amount of fuel. So something to consider. As for recalls on this truck and TSBs, there was only some very narrow recalls, and that was to a seatbelt latch or seatbelt bolt that wasn't tight, an alternator wire, the main charge wire was crimped too tight, not being at a good connection. And that's not straight across the board. That's not, you know what, we've got this massive issue. That's a machine not being calibrated properly on the assembly line, or Bob coming to work hungover and not doing his job properly. So they recall all those vehicles on that specific shift and then fix that issue. But as for general quality of the vehicle, no technical service bulletins or recalls that I'm aware of. Now definitely comment down below if I'm wrong, or if you've had one, because that's what these videos are for. Definitely read the comments. That was rust, it was just a leaf. Whew. And you can tell it's a work truck because you've got scratches on the side of the bed, and that's from standing over here and hawking things into the back. That's what happens. We got a scratch here. The paint itself looked really good. We did wash it yesterday, but it did get rained on last night. The beds are lower than the F-150, so if you are working in there, it is handier to actually grab stuff. The gaps everywhere look pretty decent. This door sticks out a hair more than the cab corner there. The plastics still look really good, so they're not all weathered and sun faded yet. So we have harsh climates and top on both sides of the scale. Not Manitoba bad, but enough there. Seeing some trucks with streaks coming down underneath the mirrors. Don't see any of that. And again, the gaps are really clean all the way along. The hood gap looks really good, nice and straight, and as do the lights. Everything is still secure. The grill and everything, it's like you grab some of them and it flexes like crazy. All of those end up being squeaks and stuff that drives you nuts when you got the windows open, but everything still seems nice and secure. The gap is even from the left to the right side. Nothing that shows any type of concern at all after 70,000 kilometers. The fancy tailgate, which is nice when it works, and it still works after 75,000 K. You can tell the bed is pretty beat up, just scratch wise, but it's not all dented in, anything crazy like that. So we got the lights in the corners, and they still work. And as far as we can tell, Really, it's in fantastic shape. So I would not hesitate to buy this one once it's depreciated the amount that it has in a couple of years. It's crazy what the price has done. Typically you want them to depreciate. It seems like vehicles have all gotten more expensive, but this is still a good buy where everything is doing what it's supposed to do. So being a work truck, the doors open and close more often than not too, but even the pins are still fine. There's no play in the door whatsoever. So I like the look of these mirrors much better than the extendable ones that pop up, and that might just be on the heavier trucks. I remember when we did drive the brand new trucks back in 2020, those mirrors shook. One, they don't look good, and two, they're flopping around in the wind, which is not going to get any better. They're not going to get any tighter. That is definitely going to accelerate. But at the end of the day, if you do like those mirrors, then that's good, because looks are subjective. I think that they are super ugly, and it would be the first thing that I pull off on the truck. What we do care about in these videos is your comments with your experiences with the truck. We don't really care other people's opinions, whether they like the mirrors or the rims or the exhaust or what they would change. That is the owner's preference and his style or her style might be different from yours, and that's okay. We want to know everything that you've experienced with the truck so that other people can make an educated decision on whether they want to buy a used vehicle like this or not. So comment on TSBs that you've run across, or recalls, dealer experiences, and things that drive you nuts with the truck. Just because it doesn't squeak in 25 degrees Celsius weather, 75 degrees Fahrenheit, doesn't mean that it's not going to squeak in the dead of winter. So definitely comment if the dash squeaks and rattles like crazy when it's super cold or super hot, one of those differences. And we want to know that so we can educate everybody else. We appreciate your guys' opinions on stuff, but at the end of the day, that comes second to your experiences and things that we can learn from you. Make sense? Here we go. Okay, driving the 2020 Sierra. As you know, you guys, we've done a 2020 review as it was brand new. So this one's got 75,000 kilometers on it, which I would think would start to show its wear. So we're gonna hop in the seat for this for a couple hours and just see what it kind of feels like. First impressions are that it's very quiet. Everything, you can't really hear anything outside except for the tires. The tires just howl. These are Goodyears. I'm not sure. They're pretty meaty tread. You can hear the tires over top of everything else, even when the radio's on. No wind noises. The seat is still pretty hard. If you go back to our 2020 review when the seat was brand new, it wasn't very comfortable. It's not like it really works itself in, but I really feel that the cushioning after the 2006, 2007 classics really went downhill. But yeah, we'll drive this for a little bit. We'll feel what it's like. You guys said you wanted a little more real world review on it, so towing something. So I'm actually towing a trailer. We're towing just a 10-foot trailer with a big gate up. Now, when I built my trailer, we made it so that the gate could fold down because it does catch quite a bit of wind. First impressions are no squeaks, no rattles, no weird noises. It feels kind of heavy, the truck. Like, you definitely know you're driving a big truck. The F-150 that we reviewed obviously was smaller with the extended cab. But we'll put it on the highway and see if we hear any wind noises or anything like that. And yeah, here we go. So on the highway, doing a $120 with 120 kilometers an hour. I forgot what miles it is, 70, 75, somewhere around there. And very quiet. Tiny bit of wind, but just barely noticeable that if you had the radio on, you wouldn't hear it. Nice and smooth. So you see the water. It's not much vibration, none that I can feel in my seat, and still a really nice ride. So you let the steering wheel nice and straight, nice and smooth. So the alignment's still really good. Nothing to complain about at all. We'll keep trying. It's a good truck. I don't know if I'd still justify the money for it, but it's doing what it's supposed to do. There we go. Okay, so 200 kilometers driving, and I don't feel great. The seats still. You can see here that the foam is already starting to let go on the seat on this side. So if you look at this side, it's nice and firm and up. Whereas this side, you can see the wrinkle and the foam is already starting to get soft. Now that's from constantly like sliding over, getting in and out of the truck. It's got no step bars, but the seat, like I've got 500,000 kilometers on my 05, and the seats are in way better shape than this is. So that's one complaint. The seats don't work themselves in, and they don't get any more comfortable the longer you wait. But truck made it fine, no issues, and that's what I bought. That's what I towed home. A little 1979 Cafe Racer. So I got the fuel tank and the seat and everything there. Nice little welding project for Vince. We'll worry about that later. It was just too cool and it was the right price. So anyway, back on the track. Let's throw it on the hoist and take a look underneath and do that oil change and do that oil analysis. Here we go. Okay, so first impressions underneath this truck. This truck looks 1,000 times better than the 2020 we reviewed 2 years ago, which is crazy. It still is not the painted frame. It has the wax on there. And now you can see where the wax rubs off, instant rust in behind there. But Joel must not take it off-road or gravel or in the wet, I don't know. But everything else is still working. So there's very minimal rust on here. Again, we are Southern Ontario. We are in the Rust Belt. They spray a pile of salt on the roads in the winter. And typically we see rust on the painted panels in about 10 years. 15 years is about the max life of a vehicle in Southern Ontario. This is why you always see new vehicles around. So the exhaust still looks really good. A little bit of surface, which is what you get on there. No rust on the muffler. The back axle looks really super clean. No issues whatsoever. Nothing that would deter me from saying that, you know, it's got rust out of control. So I don't think it's been under oiled, but I think the wax is actually doing its job. Now we have said, we have had people say that if you do it on the hoist, put it on the hoist, wherever the pads go, rubs the wax off, and it actually becomes slippery on the hoist too. So just something to keep in mind. The fuel tank is one of my grievances again on GM. So same as the 3 liters, they could have a much larger fuel tank, but they make a smaller tank so that they can get their weight down and get better mileage ratings, because they have to do it with a full tank, which sucks. Just give me a big tank. I don't want to waste time going to a gas station all the time. This is a pretty base model, so not many options. No heated seats, no dual climate. It's got power windows, power locks, and a fancy tailgate, but that's about it. Not the 3-way, but it pops open with the remote. So this has the 6-speed transmission, and it's funny because now you look at the engine. We've got the sway bar, same as the F-150, but they put the drain pan so it goes nicely in between, so we don't have to drop the sway bar. But the transmission, they've got a drain hole right here that lands on top of your exhaust. So dropping this pan, likely you can drop it without taking the exhaust off, and you don't have to remove coolers. So this is a 30-minute job, whereas the F-150 would be like a 5-hour job. Replacing all the seals in the oil cooler lines, all that fun stuff, removing the exhaust and jacking up the transmission, removing the mount. So that is a much better setup. When I had my truck, which was the 6-liter with the 4L80, I pulled a 16-foot covered trailer full of tools. So I did an oil change on my transmission every other oil change on the engine. So if you are pulling, that does become a big deal if you're you're a handyman and you're pulling constantly, I would recommend changing your oil more often. So that's a big price difference between a F-150 of a similar year and the GM. So still no grease fittings, and that's to be expected, same as all the other trucks. This is the Ranchero shocks from stock, and I was actually told that these tires are actually stock too. So the tires are this is how you get them from factory. And I don't know if they started howling as they were wearing. Supposedly they have been rotated. They're just really, really loud. I would 100% get rid of these tires and get the dealership to take them back, because it is honestly all you hear inside the cab. So we've got Ranchero shocks. We've got aluminum upper A-arm, but a steel lower with an independent suspension and four-wheel drive. I didn't see any, I didn't hear anything whatsoever. Everything looks tight, and no seepage out of any of the axle shafts, nothing coming out in between the engine and transmission, like it's not even damp. And the transfer case as well, the output shaft, not a drop of oil coming out of there. So after 75,000 kilometers, that is very, very nice. Aluminum one-piece drive shaft, so that's nice and easy to repair with the U-joints. And again, no grease fittings on those, not a big deal. It does have the skid plate on underneath the engine and in the front, but you don't have to remove any of that to do the oil change. So that's really handy. I know lots of cars that have the full skid plate, and that's for noise and whatnot. It's a pain doing an oil change because you got to drop the plastic skid plate, and then those little clips break after 10, 15, 20 oil changes. The clips start falling down, and then you start seeing cars going down the road with the plastic skid plate going. So that's not an issue here, and that doesn't let us see a whole lot more from the front because of that skid plate. We're not going to pull those apart, but that is, I am really, really surprised, honestly, to see how good a shape this truck is underneath. I'm going to recommend he does do an oil spray on it. It is getting to be fall time now. It'll be winter before you know it. I think the oil will really help. But he's doing really, really good. Nice hooks in the front too. I like the big hooks, easy to pull out. Okay, so only thing left to do for now is to do an oil change on it. We're gonna do an oil analysis on it. Luckily we don't have to drop the sway bar for this one, so it'll be nice and quick and easy. Now an oil analysis will tell you anything that's in the engine oil that shouldn't be, all the metals that it takes inside the engine to make it run smoothly, and there's all sorts of different ones. There's aluminum, copper, things like that, and bearing material, cylinder wall material, but it'll also tell you whether there's water or fuel or combustion in the oil as well. An initial oil sample is not going to tell you as much as consecutive routine ones, because that will tell you a trend as one thing is getting worse. You're getting more aluminum in there, so your bearings are starting to wear. You're getting more blow-by in there, so your rings are starting to, they're not seating properly, or whatever be the case. Now this is just a single camshaft pushrod style engine. There are other trucks with 4 camshafts. They're obviously going to have more moving parts. You're going to have more chances of foreign materials ending up in your oil. So that'll be an interesting trend to see. But let's change the oil. Here we go. Still warm. Yeah, the oil filter was very loose.
Oh, yeah.
Like I could have grabbed that by hand. That's never good.
Dealership.
Yeah, we'll Loctite that on for him. This is actually Aaron's brother's truck. See why it was loose. It's hard to get a good grip on that. So, little trick for oil filters: just grab a little bit of sandpaper, put it in your fingers, and then you get that extra little grip. Look at that, almost got a half a turn. Just for sandpaper. Works for taking them off too if you're in a tight spot. It's like the size of my fist. That's a very small starter. Only 2 O2 sensors before the exhaust. That's usually they have them before and after just to compare what the cats are doing. Wonderful. Yeah, looks really, really good. A really nice clean engine bay. These once you take the air filter system off, there's really tons of room. They made it so you can actually change your light bulbs again. I got my hand on the bulb right now on both of them. There was an era there where you had to take the bumper off or something, and I don't know what engineers are thinking. Look at that. Got some louvers and stuff happening in the front here, so must be air coming in and coming back out. I don't know. So they do have air coming in through the bumper to try and increase the airflow. So the air comes in and comes out the wheel well. So interesting little gimmicks to try and get you that extra 0.2 miles per gallon. We'll throw some oil in it and take her back out. So this good little 5.3 liter takes 0 W20. 0 is the viscosity of the oil when it's cold, and the 20 is the viscosity in the operating temperatures. Now we like this oil. It's actually made from natural gas. So rather than refining crude oil that's dirty and gross, they take something clean like natural gas without any of the impurities in it and make it a fully synthetic oil to give you all that goodness that your engine needs. There we go. Fire it up and it'll be perfect. All right, so we're here with the owner, Joel. How's it going, Joel?
Hello.
Joel's a little tired. He drove 21 hours to get here. Yeah. And he wants his truck back. But good news, it's actually in fantastic shape. Underneath looks better than the 6-month-old 2020 that we reviewed when it was 6 months old. So just a couple spots where the wax rubbed off and the surface rust is starting to go. So I would take it and get it under oiled and then do that like sooner than later, and she'll be good to go. I wouldn't worry about anything else. Everything looks super clean. There's no squeaks, no rattles. Everything's tight. The doors are tight. The gaps are good. The only thing is you should probably invest in some step bars, because you slide out of the seat and you can see the whole seat is already worn. So another 25,000 K and you're gonna have holes in there. So, but that's what you get from any truck when you keep, especially because you're hooking up trailer and unhooking and getting in and out. You probably get in and out a lot more than the average person would, right? As for the trailer, so you run a construction company, kind of handyman. Like, what do you do?
I'm a contractor, so I do kitchens, basements, bathrooms.
Okay.
And renovations.
So you pull a trailer, covered trailer?
Yeah, a cargo trailer, like a 16-footer.
Okay.
Full of tools.
Oh yeah.
Very heavy.
So do you know your mileage when you're pulling that trailer?
Can get up to like 15.7.
Yeah. So that's interesting, because I pulled a tiny trailer with like 800 pounds and it was like 15.4.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't get that much worse. Kind of, you got your 13.5, 13.7 empty, and then it just get an extra 2 liters per 100.
Yeah.
Whether it's a big trailer or a small trailer. Interesting. Right on. Okay. Definitely comment on your guys' mileage, because it worked out to the meter on the dash was dead on accurate for my average from when I was driving the whole thing. So comment down below is what mileage you're getting with the 5.3 and the 6-speed, and if you guys have the upgraded 8 or the 10-speed as well, if it makes a huge difference or not, because that's really interesting to know. All right, so you've owned it since new?
Yeah.
Okay, and have you had any issues with the truck? Anything whatsoever?
No.
No?
it's been really good.
Okay.
It's just the noise level of the tires.
Yeah, what's
They're
up?
Super. I don't know.
Are those stock? Like that? Those came with the
No,
truck?
I think they put them on before I bought it.
Oh, okay. I would sacrifice my life to not hear that. Right on. Well, we're gonna send the oil out to get sampled, and then we'll be back with the oil analysis. Here we go. All right, so we got our lab test back for our 5.3, and this one had 75,000 kilometers on it, 7,000 kilometers on this oil, and it's got a perfect clean bill of health. This one's actually slightly better results than the 5-liter Ford that we did, but regardless, they both came back perfect. All wear levels are within the acceptable limit, and there's no contaminants in there. So 10 parts per million of iron and 16 parts per million of copper and 2 parts per million of aluminum. That would be your bearings and your wear of your cylinder walls for the most part. But everything else looks really, really good. The chemicals, magnesium, calcium, barium, phosphorus, zinc, and molybdenum and boron. I don't even know what molybdenum is, but it's only 152 parts per million, and that's well within the acceptable limit. So if we keep going on this trend, there is not a huge benefit to doing these oil analyses if they all come back perfect. So definitely put down in the comments what you guys think about this review, because we really want people to read these comments and get an educated opinion on these used vehicles, whether it's worth buying or not. I also want your guys' opinion if we should start reviewing vehicles that are slightly older, maybe just crest the 100,000 kilometer, kind of the 70,000 mile mark, if that would make more sense once we start seeing more wear. But as for the reviews we've done so far, 2 for 2, not bad. Vehicles are in really good shape. All right, so the point of these videos is not to show whether this is an amazing grill and it's a beautiful truck. You can look at the truck or car or minivan and make your own opinion as to whether you think it's a beautiful piece of art or not. Looks are subjective, and as much as we want to know what you guys think, honestly, we don't. What we do want to know is your experiences with the vehicles. Any dealer issues, any recalls, anything that I've missed, anything that is working properly on this truck but isn't on yours. Say I said the interior was super quiet, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't squeak when it is 20 below in the dead of winter. So comment down below on things like that. It's up to you to buy the truck. You can look at a picture and see, I love this truck. I love the look of the grill. I love the look of the mirrors, and I love the look of the stance. That is nothing to do with these reviews. We want these reviews to be on the insides of the truck and the things that are gonna cost you money, so people can make an educated decision on whether they feel the money is right for a vehicle that has been slightly used and is not as good as the day it left the dealer's lot. Here we go.